You old fool, can't you see?
Everyone in the village knew Nia, the girl who walked as if the world belonged to her. From the moment she woke up, she believed she was more beautiful, smarter, and better than anyone else. People whispered about her everywhere she went. They said she had the kind of beauty that could make anyone stop and stare, but also the kind of pride that could destroy a person's heart. Even the elders, who were respected and feared by the villagers, avoided speaking to her. Some said that looking into her eyes was like staring into a storm, cold, sharp, and impossible to challenge. Before we begin, make sure you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss the shocking story of Nia. Trust me, you won't believe what happens. Nia loved it. She loved the way everyone looked at her when she walked through the village market. She loved the way the children whispered her name in awe. She loved the power she felt when she laughed, knowing that no one dared correct her or tell her what to do. I am the best, she would whisper to herself in the mirror every morning, twisting her hair and admiring her reflection. No one can tell me what to do. No one can stop me. Her parents often shook their heads when they saw her pride. Nia, my daughter, her mother would say gently, you must respect others, even if they are poor or old. One day, your pride will hurt you. Her father would add, listen to us, child. The elders and the villagers are wise. They are not your enemies. Treat them with kindness, or you will regret it. But Nia never listened. She would roll her eyes, laugh loudly, and say, why should I care what anyone thinks? I am beautiful, strong, and perfect. Everyone else is small compared to me. And she strutted away, leaving her parents worried and silent. Even the villagers were afraid of her. If anyone accidentally crossed her path or spoke out of turn, they would quickly apologize and back away. They knew Nia's words could cut like a knife, and her anger could ruin someone's day, or worse, her pride could make her cruel. Mothers pulled their children close when she walked past. Men lowered their eyes, and the elders shook their heads in quiet fear. No one wanted to be near her, for they knew the kind of trouble a proud girl like Nia could bring. Despite all this, Nia did not care. She walked through the village like a queen in her palace, holding her chin high and her body stiff with confidence. The sun seemed to shine brighter on her, the birds seemed to sing just for her, and the wind whispered praises that only she could hear. She was untouchable, unstoppable, and unafraid, or so she believed. But deep inside the village, in quiet corners where no one dared to watch, old eyes followed her. The elders whispered warnings to one another, and even the children felt a shiver run down their spines when she passed. For all her beauty and pride, something in the air said that a storm was coming. Something told them that Nia's arrogance could not go unchecked forever. Little did Nia know that her pride would soon be tested in ways she could never imagine. Something was waiting for her, a consequence, a lesson, and a moment that would change her life forever. But for now, she laughed, danced, and enjoyed the attention, believing she was untouchable. As days passed, Nia's pride grew even stronger. The villagers began noticing that it was not just her beauty that made her feared, it was her attitude. She spoke to everyone as if they were beneath her. She laughed at the children, ignored the shopkeepers, and sneered at anyone who dared look at her for too long. Even when someone greeted her politely, she would wave them off with a flick of her hand, as if their words were nothing but annoying whispers. One afternoon, Nia walked past the market, humming a tune only she could hear. A young boy accidentally dropped a basket of yams near her feet. Instead of helping, he froze, terrified. Nia bent down just enough to glare at him and said sharply, "Careful, you clumsy fool. Watch where you put your stupid things." The boy ran away, tears in his eyes, while the villagers around whispered nervously. They knew better than to scold her. Nia was a storm that could destroy anyone who challenged her. It was not just the children who felt her cruelty. The elders, who had lived through many storms and seen every type of person, tried to advise her in gentle ways. One evening, as she walked through the village square, the chief elder spoke, "Nia, my child, pride is dangerous. Respect the people who have walked before you. Their wisdom will guide you if you listen." Nia laughed loudly, the sound echoing through the square like sharp glass. She shook her head and replied, "Why should I listen to you? I am better than anyone here." You are old, slow, and irrelevant. Your advice means nothing to me. She spun on her heel and strutted away, her long hair bouncing as if mocking them. The villagers sighed, some hiding behind stalls, while others whispered prayers under their breath. The days turned into weeks, and Nia's behavior became bolder. She started mocking women who carried heavy loads, pointing at them and saying, "Why do you work like slaves? Stand straight. Try to look graceful like me." She laughed when they lowered their heads, humiliated. Even men who tried to correct her found themselves silenced by her scorn. Nia would glare, frown, or raise her voice until they stepped aside. No one dared challenge her. But what worried the villagers most was that Nia's arrogance did not hide behind private walls, it was public, loud, and cruel. She seemed to enjoy the fear she caused. Mothers whispered to their daughters, "Do not cross her path. She will curse you with her words." The children learned to run whenever they saw her, and even the elders no longer spoke to her directly, hoping that distance would prevent disaster. At home, her parents tried to reason with her, but she would only roll her eyes and leave. "You are always nagging me," she said one day to her mother. "I don't need anyone's advice. I am fine on my own." Her father shook his head in frustration. "This pride of yours will be your downfall one day," he warned. Nia laughed, confident that no one, not even her parents, could ever harm her. And so Nia continued, day after day, walking the village streets like a queen of fear. Her arrogance was a cloud that hung over the village, and while the villagers tried to avoid it, a sense of unease began to spread. Something told them that one day, this storm of pride would crash into someone who could stand up to her, and when it did, the consequences would be terrible. Nia's pride did not fade with time. If anything, it grew sharper, stronger, and more dangerous. Every step she took in the village seemed to make others smaller, as if the sun only shone on her. One morning, she walked past a group of women selling fruits and yams. One woman accidentally dropped a basket while hurrying past Nia's path. Instead of helping or showing understanding, Nia laughed so loudly that people turned to see what had happened. "How clumsy can you be?" she shouted. "Is your brain asleep? Pick it up fast, before I trip over your stupidity." Her words stung, and the women lowered their heads, trying not to make eye contact. The villagers who witnessed this avoided her gaze, feeling the weight of her cruelty in the air. Another day, an elder stopped her in the square. "Nia," he said gently, "please, slow down and listen. Pride will not protect you. You must treat others with respect." Nia sneered. "Respect? Why should I respect old people like you?" she snapped. "You are slow, tired, and weak. I don't need your advice. Step aside before I forget myself and shame you properly." She walked past him, shaking her head with a smirk, enjoying the look of shock on his face. Even the children were not safe from her words. One little boy tried to offer her a flower he had picked, hoping to gain her favor. Nia grabbed it, sniffed it, and then threw it on the ground. "Is this all you can do? A tiny flower. I deserve gold, jewels, and attention. Go away, little fool, before I show you what real beauty commands." The boy ran crying to his mother, who glared at Nia silently, too afraid to confront her openly. It was not just words, Nia's actions reflected her arrogance. She would walk past the village pond and splash water on anyone who looked at her funny. She would enter the market and demand that shopkeepers bow or move aside for her. When someone accidentally touched her sleeve, she would scream as if they had cursed her. Her presence became a storm that everyone felt but no one could stop. Even her friends began to avoid her. Those who once laughed with her and admired her beauty grew tired of her cruelty. They whispered about her behind her back, saying, "She is beautiful, yes, but her heart is harsh. No one can survive crossing her path." But Nia did not care. She believed everyone envied her beauty and feared her power, and that only made her pride grow stronger. At home, her parents' worry increased with each passing day. Her mother pleaded with her, "Nia, please, do not treat people this way. One day, someone will not forgive your arrogance." Her father added, pride without wisdom brings only trouble. You must listen to us, my daughter. Nia laughed at them. Trouble? Me? I am untouchable. No one can touch me. I am stronger, smarter, and more beautiful than anyone alive. You worry for nothing. And she strutted out of the house, leaving them shaking their heads. By now, the villagers no longer whispered her name with simple caution, they whispered it with a mixture of fear and dread. Some believed that a curse would soon come for her, that her pride would summon something she could not fight. Every mother pulled her child closer when Nia passed. Every elder muttered prayers under their breath. But Nia, she walked proudly, unaware that her next step would bring a moment she could never escape. The villagers had begun to whisper more urgently now. They no longer only avoided Nia, they watched her. The mothers pulled their children close when she passed. The elders would murmur in corners, shaking their heads, their eyes full of worry. Her pride would be her downfall, they said repeatedly. She does not know the danger she walks into. Even the village chief, a tall, wise man with a calm voice, began to warn the young ones, remember her beauty, yes, but do not envy her heart. It is hardened. A storm is coming for her. At home, Nia's parents grew increasingly worried. They knew their daughter's beauty had made her careless, but now her arrogance had turned cruel. Her mother sat by the window, tears running silently down her cheeks. I fear for Nia, she whispered. She does not understand respect. She mocks everyone, even those who have lived long and worked hard. What if she angers someone who cannot be forgiven? Her father tried to be stronger, but even he felt the weight of dread. We have warned her countless times, he said, his voice trembling. We have asked her to change her ways, to respect the villagers, the elders, and even us. But she refuses to listen. One day, pride will meet punishment, and I fear it will be severe. The next day, the elders themselves tried again. A group gathered near the village square to speak to Nia. They did not approach her alone, they brought a few children and shopkeepers, hoping to appeal to her sense of decency. One elder, bending on his staff, said slowly, Nia, my child, listen to our words. Pride without care for others is dangerous. Respect your neighbors. Respect the elders. Your heart is strong, but the world is stronger. Nia laughed loudly, loud enough to make birds fly from the trees. I do not need your words, she shouted. I am stronger than all of you. I am beautiful, clever, and fearless. Who are you to tell me how to live? Who dares to question me? She raised her chin and turned her back, walking away with a sway in her hips, the sound of her laughter echoing in the square. Even the children who had once looked up to her were beginning to shrink away. One little girl whispered to her mother, why does she scare everyone? Even the elders cannot stop her. Her mother only shook her head and whispered, she is proud, child. But pride brings danger if it is left unchecked. At home, Nia's parents were at their wits' end. They tried one last heartfelt plea. Her mother knelt before her, taking her hands, and said, Nia, my dear daughter, pride without respect brings sorrow. One day, your anger and cruelty will return to you. Please, think of the villagers, think of yourself. Stop this path before it is too late. Nia pulled her hands away sharply. Stop begging me. I am fine as I am. I do not need anyone. I am untouchable. Her mother's tears fell freely now, and her father's face was pale with fear. Untouchable, he whispered to himself. Even the untouchable have limits. Even the untouchable meet their reckoning. The village itself seemed to hold its breath. The wind whispered through the trees as if warning her. Shadows in the corners of the market flickered and twisted in strange ways. Animals scattered when she walked past. The elders whispered in hushed voices, she has been warned, again and again. The next step she takes may bring disaster, one no one can prevent. Nia, however, ignored all signs. She slept at night dreaming of herself in golden robes, admired by everyone, beautiful, perfect, and unstoppable. She had no idea that with the next morning, everything she thought was untouchable would begin to crumble. Something terrible was waiting for her, a moment born from all the arrogance, all the insults, all the cruelty she had sown. And she had no idea it was about to happen. The next morning, the village was calm, but an uneasy tension lingered in the air. Birds seemed quieter, and even the wind whispered through the trees in strange, uneven patterns. Nia woke up as usual, admiring herself in the mirror. Her reflection smiled back at her, flawless and perfect, just as she believed it should be. Today, she thought, everyone would see her beauty, envy her, and bow to her presence. As she walked through the village streets, she held her head high. Children scattered as she passed, mothers pulled their children closer, and shopkeepers hurried to tidy their stores. Nia laughed at the fear in their eyes, proud that her presence alone commanded respect, or so she thought. She didn't notice the shadows that lingered longer than they should, or the silent whispers that seemed to follow her from house to house. If you're enjoying this story, make sure to hit subscribe and stay with us, you don't want to miss what happens next. Nia's life. That day, Nia's arrogance reached new heights. She mocked a man carrying a heavy basket of yams, saying, "Can you even lift that properly? Or will it crush you before you get home?" She laughed as the man stumbled and lowered his head in shame. The villagers felt a chill run through them as they watched. Even the elder who had tried to warn her days ago turned his face away, whispering a prayer for protection. Then it happened. As Nia strutted through the narrow lane near the edge of the village, she failed to notice the old woman standing quietly by a hut. The woman's steps were slow and careful, but fate moved quickly. One of her feet brushed Nia's sandal. The touch was slight, accidental, but it was enough. Nia froze for a moment, her eyes narrowing. She turned sharply and stared at the old woman. The villagers nearby stopped in horror, sensing that something terrible was about to unfold. Nia's chest rose with pride and anger. Without a second thought, she lifted her hand and slapped the elderly woman hard across the face, the sound echoing like a gunshot in the quiet lane. "You old-looking witch!" Nia shouted, her voice trembling with anger and pride. "Why can't you use your eyes? Can't you see I was passing? Mind your own business and stay out of my way." She turned on her heel, shaking her body as if the world belonged only to her, leaving the woman standing in pain and shock. The old woman's lips quivered. Tears ran down her cheeks, but she did not cry out. She stood tall, despite the strike, and looked Nia directly in the eyes. Then, in a low, trembling voice that seemed to echo from the past and the future all at once, she said, "You have angered powers you do not understand. Tonight, you will see your pride, and you will weep. Your beauty will fade, and your arrogance will bring pain. Remember this day, child, for it will mark the beginning of your regret." Nia laughed at her words, dismissing them as the ramblings of an old woman. "You are nothing. You cannot curse me," she shouted over her shoulder, disappearing into the village streets. But deep inside, a shiver ran down her spine, a shiver she could not explain. The villagers who witnessed the incident whispered among themselves, some crossing themselves, others shaking their heads. They knew the curse was real, even if Nia did not. That night, the village was quiet. But inside Nia's house, a storm was beginning. She fell asleep thinking of herself, of her beauty, of her untouchable life. Little did she know that the world outside her door had already begun to change. Nia woke the next morning feeling something strange on her skin. At first, she thought it was a dream. But when she went to the mirror, her reflection made her scream. White, big pimples covered her arms, her neck, and even her face. Her skin was swollen and red. Her once perfect face now looked unrecognizable. Her beautiful hair clung to her scalp, and her lips trembled as fear filled her heart. Her parents rushed into the room as soon as they heard her scream. Her mother's hands flew to her face in horror. "Nia! What happened to you?" she cried, tears streaming down her cheeks. Her father's eyes widened in disbelief, and he rushed to her side, shaking her gently. "Child, tell us everything. What did you do?" Through sobs and stammering, Nia confessed everything. She told them about the old woman, the slap, the insults, and the curse. Her mother began to cry uncontrollably, holding Nia tightly. "Oh, my daughter, why didn't you listen to us?" she whispered. "Why didn't you respect the elders? This could have been avoided." Her father's face turned pale, and he grabbed his staff, rushing out of the house without a word. He ran straight to the village chief priest, hoping that the wise man could save Nia from the terrible curse. The villagers, who had begun to whisper about Nia's arrogance days ago, now watched from their homes, fear and sympathy mingling in their eyes. Even the elders who had once been ignored by Nia felt a chill. The chief priest listened carefully as her father recounted every detail. His eyes narrowed, his lips pressed tight. "This is no ordinary sickness," he said slowly. "This is a curse, born from anger and disrespect. The old woman you slapped is no ordinary woman. She carries power that demands respect. The only way to undo this is to find her and beg for forgiveness. But be warned, if she is not found, the curse may last longer than you can imagine." Nia's mother held her tightly, whispering, "My daughter, you must understand. Pride brought this upon you. Your arrogance hurt someone, and now it has come back to you. You must make amends, and quickly, before it's too late." But finding the old woman was not easy. Nia and her parents asked the villagers, but no one had seen her since that day. Some whispered that she had vanished mysteriously. Others said she was hiding, watching, waiting. The fear in the village grew as Nia's condition worsened. Her skin itched and burned, her face throbbed, and her beauty, the thing she cherished most, was gone. Days passed, and panic settled in the household. Nia could not sleep, could not eat, and could not hide from the mirror that reflected her ruined beauty. Her pride, once her strongest armor, was gone. She cried for the first time in her life, begging her parents for help. "Please, father. Please, mother. Find her. Make her forgive me. I will do anything." Her mother wept silently, unable to comfort her. Her father's hands shook as he consulted the priest again. "Hurry," the priest said, "before the curse becomes permanent. Pride like hers does not fade quickly, and the lesson will be harsh. She must face the consequences of her actions." The village itself seemed to hold its breath. The market was quiet, children no longer played freely, and even the wind seemed heavy with warning. Something terrible was happening to Nia, and everyone could sense that the next step could change her life forever. Nia's days grew darker and heavier. Each morning, she woke to a reflection she barely recognized. Her face was swollen, her body covered in white, painful pimples, and the beauty she had once taken for granted was gone. The mirror no longer reflected a proud, untouchable girl, it reflected fear, shame, and regret. She tried to wash the marks, but nothing worked. Every attempt only reminded her of the curse. Desperate, Nia begged her parents to help her find the old woman. Together, they went from house to house, asking the villagers if anyone had seen her. But the villagers shook their heads. "No, she hasn't been here," they said quietly. Some avoided looking at Nia at all, fearing the anger of the woman she had wronged. The whispers of the village grew louder, she was warned, again and again. Pride always meets punishment. Finally, Nia decided to apologize directly, hoping that a heartfelt plea could undo the curse. She retraced her steps to the narrow lane where the incident had happened. Her steps were slow, trembling, her heart pounding with fear. The air around her felt heavier, almost alive. Shadows seemed to stretch toward her, and the wind whispered warnings she could not ignore. She called out to the old woman, her voice shaky and small, "Please, please forgive me. I was wrong. I am so sorry. I did not mean to hurt you." But the lane was empty. The old woman was nowhere to be seen. Nia called again, louder this time, but only the echo of her own voice answered her. The villagers watching from a distance murmured among themselves. Some said she had vanished into the mist, others claimed she had disappeared long ago. Whatever power she had, it seemed impossible to reach her. Nia's heart sank. The fear in her chest grew heavier with every passing second. Hours turned into days, and Nia's apology went unanswered. Her parents tried to console her, but even they began to lose hope. Her mother cried silently every night, holding her hands and whispering, "My daughter, you must understand now, pride and cruelty bring only sorrow." Her father, who had always been calm and strong, now sat in silence, staring at Nia's swollen face and weeping softly. The pain in their hearts mirrored the pain in Nia's body. The more Nia begged, the more hopeless it felt. She tried every prayer, every plea, every act of kindness she could think of, but the curse remained. Each failed attempt weighed on her, her pride completely shattered. Nia finally realized that this was no ordinary punishment, it was a lesson, one she could not escape, one that would leave scars far beyond the skin. Night after night, she would cry herself to sleep, thinking of the old woman's words, "Tonight, you will see your pride, and you will weep. Your beauty will fade, and your arrogance will bring pain. Remember this day, child, for it will mark the beginning of your regret." The words echoed in her mind like a relentless drum. Nia's fear grew into despair, and despair turned into deep, bitter regret. Even the villagers, who had once feared her, began to feel pity instead. They watched as the once proud girl wandered the streets, her steps hesitant, her head low, and her hands trembling. No laughter escaped her lips. No proud sway of her body announced her presence. Nia was no longer untouchable. She was broken, trapped by the consequences of her actions, and haunted by the lessons she refused to learn earlier. Days turned into weeks, and Nia's condition did not improve. The swollen face, the white, painful pimples, the burning marks on her arms, all of it became a daily reminder of her arrogance. Every mirror reflected the pride she had once carried and the destruction it had brought to her life. She could no longer laugh freely. She could no longer strut through the village with confidence. The girl who had once ruled the hearts of everyone now walked slowly, head bowed, consumed by fear and shame. Her parents never left her side, but even their love could not erase the curse. Her mother cried softly every night, holding Nia close and whispering, "My daughter, if only you had listened. If only you had been humble, kind, and respectful. Pride has brought you this pain." Her father shook his head in sorrow, muttering, "We warned you, Nia. We prayed for you. But you had to learn the hard way." Nia could only weep silently, knowing they were right. The villagers, who once feared her, no longer did. Instead, they looked at her with pity, and sometimes with quiet relief. Nia's beauty, which had once been her weapon and her pride, had faded under the curse. Her arrogance had turned into weakness. Her power over others had vanished. Children who had once run from her now passed her without fear. Elders who had once been mocked now walked freely, and Nia had nothing to command, nothing to control, nothing to protect herself from the consequences of her actions. Nia finally understood the depth of her mistakes. Every insult, every mock, every cruel word she had spoken to the villagers and elders echoed in her mind. The old woman's words rang louder than ever, "Tonight, you will see your pride, and you will weep. Your arrogance will bring pain. Remember this day, child, for it will mark the beginning of your regret." Nia had seen it. She had felt it. And she would never forget it. In the days that followed, Nia became quiet. She no longer mocked, no longer laughed at the weakness of others. She walked through the village with her eyes downcast, apologizing to anyone she had hurt, though the old woman who cursed her had never appeared again. The priest told her parents that the curse was a lesson, and that Nia had been spared only because she had begun to feel true remorse. But the marks on her skin, the scars on her face, and the pain in her heart would last forever as a reminder. Nia's life had changed completely. Her arrogance was gone. Her pride, once unshakable, was replaced by humility. And though her beauty had faded, something else had grown within her, a respect for others, a fear of cruelty, and a deep understanding of the consequences of arrogance. She realized that true strength and beauty did not lie in how others saw you, but in how you treated them. From that day on, Nia lived differently. She helped the villagers quietly, listened to the elders carefully, and treated everyone with kindness. But every time she looked in the mirror, she saw the scars of her past, the punishment for the girl who had once thought herself untouchable. And she wept silently, remembering the lesson the old woman had taught her: pride and cruelty leave a mark that no beauty can erase, and regret lasts longer than laughter. Nia had learned her lesson, but it had come at a high cost. She had survived, yes, but the life she once knew, the laughter, the admiration, the untouchable beauty, was gone. She would never walk the village streets the same way again. She had enjoyed the moment, but she would live with regret forever. The villagers whispered her story to their children for years, a tale of beauty, pride, arrogance, and a curse that taught a girl to respect others before it was too late. If Nia's story taught you something, don't forget to subscribe for more emotional tales like this. Comment below what you would do if you were in her place, and share this story to warn others. Regret can come faster than you think.